Well, I actually wrote a story about Earl and his two brothers, and they went to a 4-H camp and it's Central Texas, and they were just it was about their relationship and how they sort of terrorized the 4-H camp. And then that didn't work, so I had Earl, who was kind of an interesting character to me, and then I started the story where he meets Tina, and then things just kind of snowballed, and they go to Austin, and then things kind of get off track, and it's set in the early 70s because that's it's sort of Earl's roughly the same age as I am, a little younger, but I mean I grew up in that time period, and so I knew the way things felt, and I knew the music very well, and it's the music I grew up with. I didn't have to invent that. Just pre-internet, pre-cell phone, bombardment of information, and just the way that the days were where you didn't have those distractions and you had to entertain yourself. Or a lot of times I think in the 70s you just went with things, and you didn't have any kind of plan because you didn't have any way to plan, unless you called up somebody on a payphone, and you just got in somebody's car, and you just ended up in places. And so that was my sense of what it was like, and that, there was just this kind of impromptu, um, improvised way of going through your day, that was very different. And that's kind of the way Earl operates. And it's also his downfall because he doesn't really have a plan B. He just gets in the car with her and goes to Austin. He doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. Um, he ends up in a place where he's like around a lot of people who are doing a lot of drugs, and he's kind of naive. And so he's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a hit off that. And then things kind of snowball, and he finds himself in a very difficult place. But I think the feel of what I was going for was just both the landscape of that, because East Texas is very different than Central Texas or West Texas. It's much more southern in feel. And I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I used to, when I was driving from North Carolina to Austin, I would cut through that part of East Texas to avoid going to Dallas and coming down 35, which is a real, um, horror fest. And so I would go to these really small towns, and I would always stop in this one place to have lunch, and it was what the town that Stovall was sort of modeled on. I've always wanted to write something that had the energy of a thriller, and make it a little bit more like get a little more depth to it. Like, you know, I mean, one of the things about Earl is that he's deeply embedded in his consciousness, and there's a lot of interiority. So I wanted to kind of explore his consciousness and explore, his reaction to the world, and to his own divided way of seeing the world, because he's both present and not present at the same time, like most of us are. But I also wanted it to move. Like, I wanted there to be a quick pace. And so the first part of the novel, I think I really worked hard on trying to move things forward, which is why, it moves back and forth in time. So you don't really know what happened in Austin until you get to a certain point. And then it becomes clear when he's being interviewed by the cops what things happened, what things didn't happen, what he remembers, and what he can't remember. So, I mean, I love thrillers. I watch a lot of like Nordic noir stuff on television. So I'm very interested in that, and in harnessing the energy of that and applying it to what I do, I think best, which is kind of a slower paced exploration.